to Madam. Our research topic is the allocations for quarantine center for COVID-19 victims in police using set covering approach. My name is Junaidita Patrick Anaiduat and my metric number is 265497 and my partner is Mazatu Isa binti Muhammad Ramli and her metric number is 265534.
For our background of the study, due to the COVID-19 issue in the last year 2019, as the disease continued to grow, several changes have been made to control it. Providing a quarantine center is the one of the strategy to reduce the number of the COVID-19 infections, the number of the COVID-19 patients, the level of the patient disease, and the type of the zone are all the factors to consider when deciding where to build the quarantine facility. To make the process easier, the quarantine center is chosen utilizing the set covering approach method. The set is used to establish the minimum number of the place chosen to develop quarantine facility from any of the 2022 district in Perlis. For our problem statement, with an increasing number of the COVID-19 cases, the establishment of the quarantine center and the emergency service facility is the critical in combating the spread of the pandemic, particularly in Perlis. The main factor in determining the best locations for developing a quarantine center for COVID-19 victims is the ability to minimize the distance. When the placement of the quarantine center is simply based on the service available within a 10-kilometer radius, in this study, the set covering problem is used to estimate the ideal locations for quarantine center to be built in Perlis, based on the three criteria, which is the total number of the cases, type of the disease, and the zone type of the district. Our research questions number 1 is we want to know what are the factors to lead the establishment of the quarantine center for the COVID-19 victim in the Perlis. Second one is we want to know what is about the locations of the quarantine center to be built. And third is where is the best location in the Perlis to build a COVID-19 quarantine center using set covering approach. Then our research objective is to investigate the factors that lead to establishment of the quarantine center in Perlis. Second is to determine the minimum number of the quarantine center that should be constructed. And the last one is to use a set covering approach to determine the best location in Perlis for development of the quarantine center. In the set covering system for allocate the quarantine center in Perlis, because Perlis have a multi-district, which is there are 2022 nodes. From that 2020 nodes, it helps us to develop a new formulation, which is the constraint. And because our objective function is to minimize the number of the quarantine center, our objective shows that the constraint is a feasible solution. The exit solution is to satisfy all the constraints. This part we start to model our own model, which is the Perlis have a 2020 nodes. So from that 2020 nodes, we state the node by list of the table, which is from Abi to Wang Bintung. The decisions variable for our case is we assume that Xij is equal to 1 when center I is selected to open and 0 is otherwise. Our objective functions because we want to minimize the number of the quarantine center that need to be built. So this is our objective function starting from the nodes 1 until nodes 2022. So from that, we want to see that which from 2022 nodes, which are the best location to build the quarantine center. As we mentioned earlier, how we show that our constraint is satisfied is from all these constraints, we see that our constraint is covered from all the 2020 nodes.
Data collection process, therefore, which is first is describe the problem discovery, which we see from the past year study, and then we set our problem statement. Well, For the second step is formulating research design. We set our aim, which is to minimize the number of quarantine centers that we need to build and place. The approach we use is set covering, while the methods for the selecting the populations. For the third step is research data type, which we use quantitative data. For the number of the COVID-19 population, distance of 22 districts in police is a public recorded, which is government document review. While for the last step is collect and analyze the data, which the data collected for COVID-19 cases is in 2020 until 12 January 2022. And the analytic tool is used to achieve our objective is by using Excel solver. Here is our result, presentations and solutions. The table shows that each constraint is not less than 1. After we set the constraints, it means the number of the quarantine center that need to install and service cover within 10 kilometers. The minimum distance is 6 locations in Perlis. The location selected to operate the center is X6, X12, X13, X14, X16, and X20. The name of them is Kayangan, Oran, Padang Pao, Padang Siting, Sanglang, and Titi Tinggi. What if analysis is, in our main objective of the study, we know that the total number of allocated quarantine center and to make sure the service can cover the need is at least 10 kilometers. However, in these sections, we assume that 15 kilometers is a maximum distance that the service can cover the need of the quarantine center. In this scenario, there are still the same concept to our main purpose of the study, but the different parameter setting on distance, which is 15 kilometers, which maximum service of the center only can cover 15 kilometers. For that, we can see that how much the quarantine center needed to be built at the police. So the result shows that only 2 locations for quarantine center needed to operate, which is X4 and X16, which are Chuping and Sanglang. The result shows that 6 locations are selected to allocate the quarantine center, which is X6 is Kayangan, X12 is Oran, X13 is Padang Pao, and X14 Padang Siting, and X16 Sanglang, X20 is Titi Tinggi. The best locations to allocate the quarantine center is to minimize the distance to cover the service is 6 quarantine center to be operated compared to the maximum distance is 15 kilometers. The 10 kilometer service of the quarantine center can be accommodate the capacity of the patients with different COVID-19 symptoms, whether a chronic or non-chronic. The service at the quarantine center can take the action immediately rather than 50 kilometers. For conclusions and recommendations, the model proposed here is aimed to reduce the number of quarantine centers in the state of Perlis that are used to detect patients infected with COVID-19 for the year 2021 until January 2022. We will utilize statistics to determine the number of people who have COVID-19. However, the number of the quarantine center that we in operations during that time is immaterial. This is due to the fact that the number of the patients varies from month to month as well as years to years. The model can be used to compare the model that can provide the greatest benefit in the real world problem, particularly when factors such as budget and available space in the build to house the quarantine center are taken into account. More limits will also be examines the future study, which will cover a broader range of geographical locations. That's all from our group. Thank you.